What's up, everybody? Welcome to the StaleMates YouTube show. This is a new show that I'm starting here. It's going to be like a wrestling MMA-based YouTube show. The format will be a lot similar to a podcast. Just going to talk a lot about wrestling. It's all opinion-based. I'm not a journalist. I'm not some sort of insider. It's more for the fans. So if you're looking for insider news, this isn't going to be it. This is all going to be like opinions, kind of like it's almost like the Hawkeye Report, but in like a video format. I want to have people call in and give their opinions, give their thoughts on things that are going on in the wrestling world. We're just going to touch on a lot of the topics that are going on from the day-to-day. I'm a big wrestling fan. I've been following Iowa State wrestling since 2013, but I wrestled my whole life. Didn't wrestle in college or anything like that. I wasn't that good. It's kind of like a JV all-star, if you know what I'm saying. And but I've been to I don't know how many dual meets. I've been to nationals every year since it was in Des Moines in 2013. I follow it pretty heavily. That's it. That's a little bit of background about me. Again, I don't claim to be some sort of genius about wrestling. I'm not an insider, not a journalist. I just have a camera and the YouTube channel, and I got a lot of friends that are into wrestling as well. So that's it. I just decided to give a little bit of an introduction. This episode 1. Hopefully this thing comes out. I've recorded a few. None of them have been put out yet just because I'm like trying to practice getting good at everything or getting somewhat capable of doing it. Got 2 cameras set up here. Got camera 1 up here, camera 2 down here. Bought this little fancy board. My day job, I've been on lockdown, quarantine here because of the virus going around. So I just figured this would be a perfect time to start a little YouTube channel, hopefully this is a hub for fans to gather so we can talk about wrestling. And, it's a sport that I love. I followed it for a long time. So yeah, we're just going to get into it here. I got my little book of topics right here. If you see my little Spider-Man notebook that I've used since college just to write down random stuff for a long time here. And, we got someone that's going to be calling in later. I'll get to that here in a little bit. But for right now, we're just going to get into some of the topics. I'd like to start with, I should probably preface all this by saying that I'm a huge Iowa State wrestling fan. I went to Iowa State for 1 year. That's when I started going to the duels. I'd been to a few duels before that. But that's when I started going pretty religiously. I had season tickets. A lot of people would get the sports packages and they would sell all the students, I guess. They would get the student package where you get all the sports. And I would go up to them and say, hey, are you using your wrestling tickets? They'd say no. And I would buy them from them for like a super discounted rate. I just started going through all of them. It started with the Jackson years and then into the Dresser era right now. And I made sure I go to nationals every year. I go to the Big 12s if I can. So definitely a big biased Iowa State fan, so I'm going to cover a lot of Iowa State stuff. I'm always on the Cyclone Fanatic forums. I don't type anything. I don't write anything. I just kind of lurk. I just stay in the background and just kind of soak it in. I should probably start being more vocal in there to get those boards more active. But I read it all though. I read the Hawkeye Report. Sometimes I jump on the UNI boards and read those. The open mat, all that. I've been following this sport for years and more of a lurker, and I thought it was time to, I've always wanted to do something like this, and just thought it was time, and I have the time now, so we'll see how this goes. I'd like to put, an episode out a week if I can, and just kind of do these little, hopefully I keep it around that under 20-minute mark where it's, it's just kind of boom, boom, boom. Hopefully you guys chime in and comment and reply or call in. I have this fancy board where I can get people to call in and you guys can talk your game as well. But first thing I want to talk about here is Iowa State Wrestling's 2020 and 21 schedule. Kevin Dresser tweeted it out last week, and I got to say, man, I'm a fan of it. I feel like the first few years that Dresser kind of came back here, we kind of went the route of kind of an easier schedule to get things, not just, I think he was trying to, get some confidence back in the program. We wanted to see us, Iowa State beat up on some schools that we could. And I think now the tides are starting to turn a little bit. He's starting to test the waters a little bit. We're putting our toe back in the pond of some tougher competition. I think last year, we saw it as well. We saw we went out to Arizona State, wrestled Arizona State. We wrestled Campbell. Some of the schools that, you got to kind of climb your way back into this thing, And this year's schedule, I really like it. He tweeted first the away schedule. We're going at Iowa this year. Obviously, that's always a big duel. We've been kind of slowly closing that gap a little bit, even though Iowa's they really hammered us the past last year. And then the year before that, it was a 1-point duel. And then the year before that, we got hammered. So it'll be nice to go back into Carver this year. Hopefully we match up a little better than we did last year. West Virginia, that's Big 12, North Dakota State, Big 12, South Dakota State, and then at UNI, that's always really tough because they do it at West Gym. That place is miserable if you're an opposing fan. I've been there a couple times. The worst story I have of West Gym was, I don't know what year it was, but I was going as a Mizzou fan. My cousin wrestled for Mizzou, and he's actually going to be our guest later on the show. And this is the 1 year I went to Iowa State before I dropped out and went to barber school. And it was snowing really bad. We get up there and and I'd never been to West Gym before. And if you don't know West Gym, it's like the size of a high school gym, but smaller. My high school gym that was way bigger than this place. But they do that on purpose because it creates like a really in your face, it's kind of barbaric or gladiator style. Because the fans are right on top. You're on top of the fans. You're sitting shoulder to shoulder right next to a fan. You're the opposing fan, and it's hot in there. It's like if you were to watch some sort of 80s movie on wrestling in the gymnasium, in the high school. They got the spotlight. It's literally like that. And anyways, we're going up to West Gym, and I'm wearing my Mizzou stuff, and we get up there and it was snowing really bad, and we're in our little Mizzou section. I was with my parents, and they were like, "Hey, will you go get some popcorn or something from the concession stand?" So I'm like, "Sure." There's like 10 minutes, till the duel starts. I was like, "I'll hurry up and get this popcorn." So I'm walking down the gymnasium bleachers, and there's like a coat on the last row, and I didn't want to step on it. And I just didn't feel like I, wanted to ask anybody to move or anything because, I'm young. I was like, I'll just jump over this thing. So I go to jump over this thing, and I land on the gymnasium floor. And my boots were wet from the snow and just hit it and just slid it right out from underneath me. I fall on my back. Everyone's laughing. They're booing. They're yelling, "Go back to Mizzou," because I'm in Mizzou stuff. It was terrible. Anyways, I have like this personal like grudge against West Gym, but if you're a UNI fan, I'm sure you love it. It works. I'll say it definitely, that environment's tough to go to as a fan. I'm sure the wrestling is even harder. Las Vegas invite. I'm assuming that's the Cliff Keen. That's always a good one. I always like to, that's like the kind of the first real test for these guys. I feel like in our schedule, there's not any dates yet. So I'm sure that'll be like, our first big tournament, open tournament or whatever. And then the last one that's on here anyways for right now is at Penn State. That is going to be awesome. That's really cool. And hopefully, Penn State, they've been obviously, they've been the dynasty the past 10 years or whatever it's been. But hopefully this is a point where we can kind of, the tides are turning a little bit, kind of like when Iowa State went into Carver a couple years ago. And we ended up walking out of there losing by 1 point, which you want to win always, but that kind of felt like a win because it was kind of like, okay, the things are changing. Dresser's got us on the right path. Granted, a lot of things went our way for that, but that's a good measuring stick, I think, to see. And it's a really big boost of morale for Iowa State. So hopefully that's kind of the next step is to, go on and face Penn State, who's a team that's just been dominant. And, I don't know how we're going to match up, especially with guys coming back from, this season this year where, all these guys have had to sit out. So hopefully that fares well for us. It's kind of nerve wracking that we're going there, and I could see that. I could see it being really good for us, and we do really well, and we either win the duel or we just kind of, almost win it, keep it close, and show that we belong, in that top caliber of teams, or it could go really bad. Hopefully, it's the first one. And then the last thing that he says here in this tweet is he's still looking for a team to wrestle in Montana. And I think that's probably a salute to Jared Dagan, old Montana kid, who I think that he, is like, hey, this is your last year. Let's get you back in your home state. Let's see how this goes. Hopefully we can get some good competition. I'm always looking for like an away duel to go to. I think that'd be sweet. I've never gone up that way. I think it's kind of a state that you kind of have to have like a reason to go. You're not just going to happen to end up in Montana unless you're, playing for it. So hopefully that'd be cool. I don't know any Division I programs around there. But yeah, that's cool. And then the home schedule is Wartburg, Cyclone Open, Utah Valley, Purdue, which is special because it's at Humboldt High School, which I think that's awesome. I think that's an opportunity for us to have like our own sort of West Gym type atmosphere, a smaller high school gym. I'm not too familiar with Humboldt. I know it's not very big. And the only thing that's going to be interesting is Humboldt is not really close to Des Moines or Ames. I'm going to do a quick Google search just to make sure. So I don't know what kind of fans are going to travel to this. I'm assuming it'd be like similar to like traveling to Northern Iowa. It's like a 2-hour drive from Des Moines. Like an hour and a half drive from Ames. Let's see here. I'll just do to Ames. If I can figure out how to use my computer. So it's about an hour and a half from Ames. So I don't know. It should be interesting. I know it's not going to take that many fans to like sell that out. I'd like to go to that. That's definitely one of the dual meets I want to go get to this year. I think it'd be interesting to see that kind of atmosphere, see what kind of fans are going to be there. Is it just going to be Iowa State fans? Is it going to be Iowa fans? Is it, who's going to be there? And Purdue is another, they're a pretty solid program for the Big Ten. Anytime we get to wrestle the Big Ten, I like to go to those. Anything unique too. I think Dresser doing this at Humboldt is really cool. He's definitely kind of coach that is trying to build. He's into the theatrics. He's into he knows that it's a branding thing. If they have some sort of dual meet at Humboldt and they have, sold out, which I'm expecting that it will be, and they put out some big production and there's, all this going on, and they put out, footage from this, that'll be huge for recruiting. These kids will, these recruits will see that we have cool stuff going on at Iowa State, and the theatrics that he's going to put on for it. What I think, it's cool. You want to see unique stuff. I like these duels where they do it in theaters. I've seen duels at theaters. Obviously, Iowa has done theirs on Carver the one time where they broke the attendance record. Iowa State's done theirs at Stevens Auditorium. I think that's stuff's unique, and I think that's what you got to do to get recruits excited about going to your program. Is you got to be sometimes you got to adapt with the times. I think it's a pretty cool salute. He's from Humboldt, Coach Dresser, and I believe that the Purdue coach is also from Humboldt. I think it's awesome. I'm going to try to go to that as soon as they release tickets. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty limited to get in there, but it's pretty sweet. Arizona State's another one. We've wrestled them. I feel like we've wrestled them quite a bit lately, but we're kind of another program, similar stories, Coach Zeke Jones was there around the same time. I think they started around the same time maybe with Iowa State and Arizona State. I think Zeke's probably been there a little bit longer, but I don't know. I see us kind of in that same tier of teams as Arizona State. So to see us keep kind of fighting, wrestling, I don't think we beat them yet, but last time was pretty close. That was another one that was cool. I was actually in Arizona, and I went to that dual meet, that quad between Harvard, Campbell, Arizona State, and Iowa State at the Arizona State Diamondbacks field, and that was awesome. It was sweet. And I read an article after that where they want to keep doing that kind of thing. And I think it's great. I think it's great for wrestling. Anything to get people excited and to anything, whatever it takes to get, more people to watch wrestling. I love it. Oklahoma State, Northern Colorado, and Missouri. I like this Missouri. I like this Missouri matchup that we've had. I feel like every year for the past like 3 or 4 years, and I feel like it's kind of a good gauge for us too. It's always at the end of the year, I feel like, and it's like one more tough test. They've always got their tough guys. We've got our guys. I like the Brock Mahler, Jared Dagan matchup that we see every year. We're going to see that again. Missouri, though, they're solid every year consistently. So I think it's one last tough test for our guys and a good resume builder. If you get a good win against Missouri, that'll be great for seeding. That's it. That's all. I'm really curious to see how the Montana thing is going to play out. If we're going to get some quality competition up there, it'd be cool. I don't know if there's any Division I programs out there, but I feel like it'd be sweet to see, 3 different teams from everywhere else kind of go to Montana and wrestle. This, more way to introduce wrestling to that part of the country where it's not really that dominant up there. But I'm excited for it. I like this schedule a lot. Hopefully Dresser keeps doing cool stuff. Big fan of the Humboldt situation, big fan of the Montana situation. And, they haven't announced any dates or locations, so some of this other stuff could be pretty sweet to see, how it all pans out. Penn State's going to be awesome. Iowa's going to be awesome. This is a tough schedule. This is a legitimate schedule. And I don't know if it's because, the heat that he took at the end of the year for the Last Chance Open. I don't see that on here, but I'm a fan. If that happens, I think it's sweet. Change the rules. Let's see if the rules change from him. They'll call it the Dresser rule. But that's it. That's it for Iowa State that I know of. I just saw today that Jared Dagan got his shoulder surgery done. Hopefully he's back strong next year. But without further ado, I think we're going to try to get our first guest on the show here. His name's Mikey England. He's my cousin. So I was like, hey, I made him do this kind of thing. I was like, Mikey, you got to help me out here. I know you're busy fighting fires and getting in MMA fights. We're going to have him talk about all that and let's see if he picks up here. I told him I was going to call him. I was like, if you don't answer, I'm just assuming you're out saving lives. So let's see if we can get Mikey on the phone here. This machine's pretty sweet. Come on, Mikey. I probably should have shot him a message first saying, are you ready?
What's going on?
What up, Mikey? You hear that?
1 second. I had to turn off my Bluetooth. What's up?
Oh, say what's up to everybody. This is the first episode. I haven't introduced yourself yet, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Mikey England, cousin to Zach Vogel. Grew up in the same hometown. Been doing our things in our separate fields.
Yep, that's right. So, you're a firefighter and MMA fighter. Is that correct? That's the rumor.
Rumor has it. I'm actually at work right now.
You're gonna get in trouble?
Down kids. No, I'll be good. I was just getting a little workout in.
Okay.
Working for the Kansas City Fire Department.
Okay. So you got a fight coming up May 30th. Is that still happening?
Hopefully. We kind of a crazy time right now. It was originally May 9th, and they decided to reschedule it, and now, I mean, as far as I'm still treating it like it's still on and everything.
Still training and everything. You're in fight shape already?
I mean, I'm trying to stay as prepared as possible, and I mean, it's not ideal, but
right.
I think when if the fight, if it happens or whatever, it's like still got to go out there and fight. So.
And that's kind of a bummer because this is the year that you're really going to make it happen. You're 4-0 as an amateur, and then now 1-0 as a pro. So this is going to be your second fight, probably a tougher test than the other ones. And you're going to try to get in as many fights as you can this year, and then hopefully sign with a big company at the end of the year.
Yeah. So I kind of put all my trust into my coaches and my manager. And I was like, this year for me, I was like, all right, let's like I've laid the foundation. Let's do it. Let's get all the fights in that I need to get, and try to start making some leaps and bounds towards my goals this year. And so my manager, yeah, I kind of talked to them and stuff, and I let them do, pick my fights, do all that stuff, and they're like, yeah, we'll try to get you a couple fights this year, like the fights that you need, get a couple fights next year, and try to get you on the Dana White Contender Series. We've already signed a couple dudes from our gym.
Right. And what
get
gym?
On there for this season.
Can you tell people what gym you train at right now? Or you've been
yeah,
at? You've been at the whole time. Go ahead.
Yep, Glory MMA down in Kansas City.
With Coach.
I moved down here and didn't really know how I was doing with my life, but I found my way into Glory, and turns out to be a perfect fit for me, honestly.
Yeah, and you got Coach James Krause there and Zach Cummings.
Yeah, James and Zach, and I work with both of them. It's really cool because they both bring something a little bit different style.
Right.
They both have different physical attributes that lead to a different style for both of them. That comes from a wrestling background, and has big knockout power, tough, durable dudes. And James is just a smart, tactical dude who, he's able to make adjustments in fights and stuff, and kind of outlast people, outsmart people.
Okay, so you started out, so you wrestled in high school, you wrestled in Iowa, you're a 4-time placer, 2-time finalist, 1-time state champ. Then you go to Iowa State, you wrestled for Coach Jackson for 3 years, and then you transferred to Mizzou, wrestled for Coach Smith for 2 years, and then you were kind of you didn't know what you wanted to do. You knew you were kind of done wrestling. Was MMA something that you were always wanting to get into?
Oh man, like growing up, like.
I mean, I know the stories, but for the people who don't know, you weren't afraid to get into it or get after it.
Growing up, I mean, I loved. I don't know what it was, but I always loved wrestling.
Right.
But like my deep down, my actual love was like fighting.
Right.
I don't know what it was, but like I'd spend like 5th, 6th grade, I'd spend hours on. That was like when YouTube first started and stuff. I'd spend hours on there just watching fights, watching UFC, MMA, Pride, and I'm like, man, that's what I wrote a letter to myself when I was a freshman to like a senior self, and one of the things that like I wrote, like I wanted to wrestle at Iowa State, I wanted to be a state champ, and like all this stuff, and I also remember writing like I wanted to fight in the UFC, and
right so that's awesome. Well,
made a couple of those things already happen, so now gotta make that last one happen.
So you're wrestled at Missouri. So Missouri, that's like UFC U right there. You got or MMA U, I guess, because you got Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, Michael Chandler. Who am I missing? Johnny Eblin, and then you're gonna be the next.
Yep, and unfortunately, I haven't really kept like close ties with any of those dudes, but it's all right. I got my own path, but I'm still gonna rep the Tigers the whole way and just add some more credentials to their post collegiate stuff. And so, I mean, right now it seems like you got Okie State producing
they got that
a lot of MMA guys.
That DC connection there.
Yeah, and then right after, I feel like Missouri, has to be almost the next most successful program to produce MMA people. So
now, when you're in these rooms with these guys, can you kind of tell who are going to be the MMA guys, or do you think it's something that maybe you got to go? It's like something deeper inside, or like some of these. I feel like we see a lot of these guys that were like, oh man, those guys would be good, if they can't wait for their MMA transition, and then those guys don't do it. And I feel like a lot of times it's kind of those quieter guys that end up being the guys that you wouldn't really think about or call out, about being an MMA fighter. I feel like that's a lot of times those guys that end up doing it.
Yeah, it's so weird when you get done with college because you spent your whole life like wrestling and school, and so you don't know anything else. So then you get done, and there's kind of like this question mark on what you want to do. And so like I was like my last year got done like cutting weight, didn't, and like it was pretty miserable. And I'm like, man, I don't want any part of this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And then
That's a grind.
I feel like a lot of seniors are kind of like that, like, you know, like they love wrestling, but they're like, man, like this has been 15, 20 years of my life. I'm ready to be done.
Right.
But usually, I mean, like for me, like took a little break and all of a sudden I'm like, man, like I miss that grind. I miss that grittiness. It's like you don't really get to test yourself like that in real life. And, and so it's just kind of like it's hard to tell because it's like there has to still be kind of that hunger, that competition hunger, that hunger for that grittiness. And,
which that's something like, that you don't really see, like, you know, you don't really see that. That's something that you kind of have to get to know the person to find that they have that in them, I guess. Right.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you kind of have to let like the wrestlers like get a little taste of real life and then make the decision. And so I got friends now who I would have thought would have did MMA and I think would have been really good at MMA, but I think they got a little taste of normal life and, you know, and I think they're kind of fat and happy now, and which is great. It's like do your thing, but it's kind of like I couldn't really tell who was going to want to like continue training and stuff, but like it's definitely interesting now seeing who continued on and who you know went on to live
another thing that
the normal life.
So you're a firefighter, MMA, and then MMA fighter, and then also you help out with a kids wrestling club down there in the Kansas City area. Do you get a lot of these kids now? They I mean, obviously they know that you're fighting and stuff. Like they go to your matches and whatnot, and you talk to them about it. Are any of these kids saying, "Man, that's something that I want to do when I grow up," or are they still? I mean, they're really young, so. Our kids kind of wanting now that UFC is growing and becoming this big sport and whatnot. Are you hearing more kids say, man, I want to be, you know, the next Conor McGregor or whatever? Or are they still like, maybe not?
It's so funny with like little kids because like, you know, like sometimes you're like trying to teach them and you're talking to them and then it's like they're not getting it. So you almost have to like physically make their body do this move, right? And so you're like, man. But then there's other times where all of a sudden, like, we had this kid wrestling a match and he got done. He won the match. And you know that little Conor McGregor walk?
Yeah, he was imitating it.
Like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he wins his match and starts doing this little Conor McGregor walk off the mat.
That's
and
awesome.
It's like, oh, man, it's like they pick up on more than what you know and what you think.
Right.
And so, I mean, I get a lot of them that like joke around and stuff, but there are a couple high school kids that they'll talk to me about it, and I can tell that they're interested. They're really interested. They want to test it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for calling in, or thanks for letting me call you in, I guess, to be guest number one.
Heck yeah! Hopefully I can be a guest. Fairly regular. Get on here and talk a little bit.
We still got to do like an in-person sit-down, like real interviewing. There was a lot of stories we kind of skipped over, and hopefully you can come on sometime and spill some beans.
Heck yeah, we can talk a little wrestling, talk a little MMA,
That's
whatever.
Right. That's right. So May 30th right now, it's kind of in limbo, but that's kind of the plan.
Yep, May 30th.
Is it at the same place?
Got an opponent. Yep, same place. It's in Independence. It's right outside Kansas City at the Silverstein Arena.
Yep.
And my opponent, you know, I think he's like maybe 2-1 or 3-1 as a pro, but he was like 15 or 16-2 as an amateur. So
yep,
he's got a lot of time in the cage.
Well, I'll be there, man.
It'll be a good test.
I'm excited for it. That's a big production down there. A lot of guys that came through there. Anthony Smith actually commentates sometimes on there. He might be there this time. I think the UFC they've got their hooks in on that production down there.
Dude, I mean, like for this one, I don't know if it still is, but I know originally for the May 9th one, we were going to be streaming on the UFC Fight Pass. So it's
Yeah.
like the promotion has pretty good ties with the UFC. So it's cool that they just started it. This promotion, this is going to be like the third event. So
Yep.
I kind of got lucky and got put in it when as they're getting started, and so now I can kind of grow with them.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for calling in. Anything else?
No, I'm just gonna keep training, dog, and hopefully y'all see me in the UFC. I'm shooting for 2021.
Hey, we'll have this
So
recorded.
I want to make my 2021 UFC debut.
All right.
That's the goal.
All right, Mikey. Thanks for calling, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, see ya.
Yep. So yeah, that's him, man. Mikey England. I really appreciate him taking the time to call in. He's actually on the clock right now. He told me, he's like, I'll try to do it. And I texted him. I was like, are you ready to roll? And he didn't respond. And he's like, sorry, we just had a fire. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's why you didn't answer. But anyways, yeah, this is exciting. I don't think this is too bad for my first show. If you guys got any questions or anything that you want to add to it, let me know. I had a lot more topics on here, but I wanted to get Mikey on here. I want to keep these somewhat short. You know, this is so far it's a little bit longer than I want, but we'll keep things going. I don't know. Well, maybe make it longer. We'll hear what people have to say, and we'll go from there. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is the StaleMates podcast, and you guys have a good day.